Alright, so as we all know, Elemental Battlegrounds will not be receiving any more updates. Sure, they changed the name, but they did the same with Elemental Wars. We're done. We're not getting any more updates, no more elements, so I might as well just do one final tier list. Starting out, we got Fire. Honestly, Fire is pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in A tier. The only reason it's not S tier is because I feel like the Fire body and the Blaze column are extraordinary. Sure, they're okay, but they're nothing crazy. And I am going to be judging ultimates in this tier list. I know people don't really use the ultimates. They're still a part of the game, so it's only fair that I judge them. But yeah. Miniature Fire Bullets has insane damage potential when you hold it down. I think it has one of the most damages out of any multi-projectile in the game. So that alone pushes it pretty up on the list. Next up, we got Water. People might hate me for this one, but I'm gonna go ahead and put Water in B tier, mainly because I feel like the Tornado, the multi-projectile, the transportation spell, the ultimate, they're all kind of mid. Well, not mid, they suck. The multi-projectile is mid. Everything else sucks. Then you got the projectile, which is all people really use. Even that is kind of like just a downplayed version of Light's projectile, or however you want to see that. But honestly, I'm not really feeling Water. I never really liked it. I always felt like it was kind of the worst starter in the game. Next up, we got Grass. Now, I feel like Grass is a bit better than Water, but it's still not too good. Poison Needles is definitely good, but everything else besides maybe the Vine Pool is still pretty bad. I haven't really seen anybody use it. You can try and glaze it yourself if you want to, but you know deep down that you don't even be using it. Next up, we got Sound. That can go straight into the depths of D tier because Sound is hot, steaming, raw garbage. I don't want to hear anybody trying to glaze Sound or act like Sound is super good, and like, no. People do not use Sound. The only people I see using Sound are the people that just bought it. Like, when people get better elements, nobody's using Sound anymore. Like, come on, bro. It was literally free. That's why it's so garbage. Next up, we got Lava. Honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and put Lava above Grass and Water. Or nah, I'm gonna put it behind them in B tier. Honestly, the projectile is pretty decent. I don't see people using it too often. It kind of just exists in the game. It's like a flamethrower, but a stationary flamethrower. It's all right. I mean, the multi-projectile is pretty bland. I mean, it's like every other multi-projectile in the game. Nothing special about it. The AoE, you don't really need to aim, but that's really all Lava really has going for it. It's kind of just in the mid tier, which is B. Space can go straight into the C tier. The only move I'd ever consider using is the Black Hole, and that's the only good move Space has, in my opinion. Sure, they have a grab. It does like 400 damage, which is insane, but I think it also has the shortest range of any grab in the game in turn. And if you're going to use a grab in your combo or anything, you're probably going to use that one. But honestly, I just don't really think it should be moved up because of that. Next up, we got Darkness. This is going to go in the back of B tier. Darkness does have a decent multi-projectile, basically the same as Lava's, just makes less sound, I guess. Honestly, Darkness is pretty average. The grab and the AoE or the heal or whatever that is, both kind of suck. The actual AoE, the little has the darkness pellets zooming in on one area. I feel like that's actually pretty good. It deals a lot of damage if you can use it properly, but everything else is pretty lame. Next up, we got Nature. Honestly, I got flamed for saying Nature was D tier, so I'll do you guys a favor and put it in C tier. Yes, I still think Nature is not that good. The shield is really the only thing I feel like Nature has going for it. Actually, I might move Nature up to B tier because the spiky shield and the projectile, they both seem decently good. Everything else is kind of mid, though. I mean, people might try and act like the AoE is good, but they themselves aren't even going to use it. Next up, we got Aurora. This is going to go in S tier, mainly because I feel like every move can be good. If you take the same amount of effort it takes to hit every single poison needle onto Aurora, it's going to be the best element, one of the best elements in the game, for sure. Every move just seems good. That's really all there is to say about it. Next up, we got Technology. This is going to go above Aurora. Actually, it's going to go below Aurora because I feel like the Boomerang move is super impractical and nobody's really going to take the effort to use that. And the transportation spell is unfortunately broken. It leaves clones of itself and ends up lagging out the entire server. pretty unfortunate because I did think it was pretty good before that. It's like an upgraded water transportation spell, but it is what it is. The AoE and the projectile are both seen as cancer, which basically means they are too good for their own good. Next up, we got slime. I'm actually gonna just put this in S tier above Aurora. I actually do think this is the best element in the game, simply due to the fact that there's nothing you can really do about it. I mean, it doesn't really require any skill. Every move is just kind of brain dead, and they just have just free stuns everywhere, and they have summon these slimes that chase you and just add on extra damage. It's pretty insane, actually. Next up, we got illusion. I'm gonna put illusion in C tier. Now, people might be confused, but the black hole on space is about as good as Ace Up the Sleeves is as a projectile. It just has one good move, in my opinion. People might try and act like the AoE where it pulls you in with the clone is no. No, it's not that good. It's not that insane. There's nothing over the top about it. It's not easy to use. It's not, that might be like, oh, just because it's not easy to use doesn't mean it's bad. Dude, come on, bro. We're not about to sit and act here and act like the illusion AoE is something special. Like, it's really not. It might be able to be used in combos to pull people in, but I feel like there's just better alternatives unless you just specifically want that. I don't know. Nobody's falling for the clones. Next up, we got time. I'm gonna go ahead and put time in. I feel like time is better than grass. I was gonna put it in A tier, but I just feel like it's so unbelievably mid. I mean, the transportation move is unique. I feel like it can be good in certain situations, but I only really ever see that used to just get away from stuff. It's never ever, or just to throw people off the map. I've seen that been used too. But time doesn't seem like anything too crazy going on. The temporal trap can make for crazy combos and stuff, but honestly, those three moves, the temporal trap, the move that teleports you back into the center when you try and leave, and then you got the multi-projectile, pretty decent mid moves, solid B tier. Next up, we got Void. Y'all know I'm a glaze Void until the day I die. I'm gonna go ahead and put Void in S tier. Honestly, I don't even think Void is actually an S tier element. I'm just putting it there because it's Void, and that's the OG, like, that's the OG beast element. Like, when the game first came out and you saw a Void user, you knew you were cooked. I gotta give it some respect for being that original, nostalgic, powerful element that whenever you seen that blackness, those black beams going off in the sky, you knew you were cooked. Gotta give it some credit for that. Next up, we got Plasma. Honestly, I feel like Plasma is better than Nature. Actually, it might be worse than Nature. It might be in the back of B tier. I only really feel like the only thing it has going for it is the multi-projectile and maybe the projectile, but AoE and the transportation spell, super lackluster. Nothing really special going on there. Next up, we got Ice. I'm gonna go ahead and put Ice in A tier because, one, second lowest cooldown multi-projectile in the game. It can be super useful, and it barely costs any mana to use. You can basically just keep on spamming it over and over again for free damage. If you can aim, even better. The projectile, it has a free stun. It does decent amount of damage, nothing crazy, but it does freeze your opponent. And then you got the AoE, which is super unique. If you jump in the air, it actually turns into a light AoE, which is pretty insane. Normally, it just pushes people away, though, which I don't really use. I just usually use the other version, which I feel like is pretty good. Next up, we got Earth. I'm honestly just going to put this at the top of 8. Actually, this can go in S tier above Void. People might be confused about this one, but if you actually look at Earth's damage, it adds up really quickly. You can really just run solo Earth and maybe get rid of the ultimate and add something else in there, and you probably pop off. The damage is absolutely insane. The transportation spell does insane amounts of damage. Everything does insane amounts of damage with Earth, and you get the Earth body, which reduces damage, which can come in clutch for surviving those annoying combos. Next up, we got Storm. Honestly, I'm gonna put Storm above Plasma because I do feel like the projectile can be good. It's very difficult to dodge if aimed properly. The transportation spell is also a nice quick way to get out of any move as it's instantaneous, but I do feel like there are better options out there. But Storm just seems like a pretty mid element. I mean, the multi-projectile is nothing crazy. Then you got the AoE. nothing crazy. So yeah, next up we got Spirit. Honestly, Spirit is just the most mid element in the game in my opinion. It has invisibility, but all the other moves are basically they just kind of exist. They don't do too much damage, they don't do too little damage, they don't have any special effects besides maybe the lightning effect on the projectile, which doesn't even really matter. But yeah, Spirit's pretty big. I remember when the game came out, people would just go invisible and just pull you in and push you out, and now that I look back at it, it didn't really do anything to me. Next up we got Acid. I feel like Acid is better than Grass and Water in a sense of how many, like, there's a free combo in Acid. You basically use the projectile, then use the AoE, and that's basically like a free 600 damage or so just from using moves within the already existing kit. I feel like Acid is pretty fun and it's pretty underrated, but yeah. Next up we got Phoenix. I'm gonna go ahead and put Phoenix above Fire because I feel like every Phoenix move is decently good. In the right situations, it can deal insane amounts of damage. That projectile, instant like 400 damage if you can use it properly. Probably can do more than that if you hit all those little exploding split off things or whatever. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Next up we got Wind. I feel like this is one of the better elements in the game, and I do feel like it's better than Fire still. Thing about Wind, I feel like every move is decently good if you use them all together. Pretty insane, and the damage on that shotgun of Wind tornadoes, insane damage potential. People need to use it more often. I do feel like Wind is the little thing that pushes people away. It's not that good, but Wind can definitely be a pretty good element. I really just got it up this high because if you use the whole Wind moveset together and then you just burst all the moves out at the same time, it's super fun to do. You got to give it some credit for that. Solar is gonna go at the top of A tier if I can get it. All right, clearly don't think it's all right. Solar, insane damage potential. I remember when it came out, I remember doing like almost 1,000 damage with the multi-projectile alone, which is more than many ultimates in the game actually. Solar has insane damage potential, but I do feel like the AoE and the heal are pretty lackluster, but I gotta put it in A tier mainly because of the insane amount of damage the projectile and multi-projectile can do. And the ultimate, people know how to get out of it now, but when it first came out, people didn't know what to do against that. Next up, we got Spectrum. Honestly, Spectrum only has one good move, and that's the transportation. Everything else is kind of just garbage, in my opinion. I'm gonna move on to Crystal. Crystal can go right above or right below Nature. Honestly, Crystal has a pretty decent multi-projectile, but it's not that good at long range. I mean, it's like a quick burst of damage. And then you got the shield, which auto-locks people, and it shields you. The heal is all right. I mean, if you want to get healed, I guess you can just use that. But Nature's heal is honestly a bit better. Or Angel's body is probably a better option too. But hey, man, you do you if you really want to play Crystal. Next up, we got Chaos. I'm going to go ahead and put this above Ice, but below Fire. I'll put it above Wind, actually. Because Chaos, that AoE, the multi-projectile, you can all just have them just sitting on top of people and dealing mad damage over time, especially the AoE. If you use that with Temporal Trap, it's basically just guaranteed you're going to get all the damage off. And I really do like how unique that AoE is. The projectile isn't nothing crazy, but if you hit all the, I don't know what they're called, but if you hit everything, it's going to deal insane amounts of damage. And you control people by swapping places with them and flying them off the map. Next up, we got Reaper. Honestly, Reaper is probably one of the worst elements in the game, and I do feel like it is a bit better than Spectrum. Honestly, Reaper has a shield that, honestly, it's just extremely useless. It gives you like 3 seconds of a speed boost that deal like 34 damage every second or so. It just seems pretty bad. But the projectile, it pulls people in, does like 400 damage. It's pretty insane. So I do feel like that's pretty good. I am missing Explosion. All right, I got explosion in there now. I kind of forgot that existed. But next up we got Angel. Honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and put Angel above Aurora but below Slime. I feel like Angel is pretty good. The projectile, super easy to hit. It's instantaneous. It's pretty hard to miss that, honestly. And it sends people flying across the map, so it's pretty satisfying to get off. I've seen people hate on the projectile, but it's kind of cancerous to use, and it's a big burst of damage, and it targets you. People say, oh, you can just dodge it, but you can dodge any projectile. Like, that's not good logic. And then you got the transportation, keep slashing people back and forth, and you got the transformation body spell or whatever you want to call it. Honestly, I feel like that's pretty good. It heals you, and you get a teleportation instead of dashes. I feel like that's a lot. Next up, we got Light. Honestly, Light is, of course, better than Darkness. I'm going to go ahead and put this at the back of A tier. I feel like Light has an insane projectile. Not many people use it, but I feel like more people need to use it because it's absolutely insane. The multi-projectile is average, but the AoE, it stuns pretty good. I'm not sure why it's A tier actually, but it's Light, so I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it there. We got Gravity next. Honestly, I feel like Gravity is worse. It's definitely going in D tier. Now, people might be like, how? Look back at Gravity, because you clearly haven't used Gravity in a long time. All right, I'll do it some justice because it has one good move like all these down here. The little projectile, the gravity ball that you throw at people, sure, so it's okay. Everything else is complete garbage. The shield that deflects stuff, nobody's falling for that. Nobody's gonna shoot at the giant purple bubble and possibly get their projectiles deflected back at them, which is the intended purpose of that shield, believe it or not. The damage is super low. I hope you're not trying to use that on top of somebody. Maybe you can like stack it on top of a combo. I don't know. Seems trash to me. The AoE also seems trash, and the body transformation, definitely the worst in the game. Well, Sounds is up there in the worst in the game too, but the low gravity definitely doesn't seem worth wasting an entire slot and mana for. And the ultimate level 50 ultimate right there. That's what you do when you're level 50. Next up, we got Nightmare. Honestly, this is going to go in A tier above Phoenix. The amount of damage, that stun, like horrifying head, it does insane amounts of damage and it stuns. We ain't even gonna act like that isn't good. Then we got the multi-projectile, does insane amounts of damage while healing you. Come on. Then you got the AoE, which basically just pops a skeleton off the ground and he just throws black orbs at you. I don't even know what that is. It's not horrible. It's kind of mid, but the horrifying head is the main thing about Nightmare. And people actually ban using that in 1v1 sometime because of how broken it is. Next up, we got Dragon. I'm going to go ahead and say this is better than Light. Dragon doesn't really have too much going for it. All of its moves are pretty well-rounded. It seems pretty balanced, but it doesn't really have any crazy moves that are used in combos or anything. It kind of just has decent moves. The moves aren't bad. They're just kind of decent, which makes it A tier. Because if you look at these other elements, they do have some bad moves in their kits. Unlike Dragon. Next up, we got Explosion. I forgot this existed. I feel like everybody has. I'm going to go ahead and put this in B tier above, I think I'll put it above Lava. Mainly because it has the highest damaging projectile in the game. It's just so much damage, and I feel like the hitbox is pretty weird though. Sometimes it just doesn't go off. You kind of have to hit it from above for it to really explode. But yeah, Explosion seems pretty good. You can like turn people's projectiles into a massive explosion, which deals insane amounts of damage. The multi-projectile, or the AoE, which looks like a multi-projectile, is pretty mid. I don't really see people using that. The transportation, I feel like it's hot garbage. So I feel like B tier is worthy for Explosion. That's the tier list. If I'm missing an element, it probably doesn't matter. But yeah, this is the final Elements of Battlegrounds tier list. This game is probably not going to get another update ever again, since the devs took a year to update Blox Fruits, which is kind of insane. Because that game gets a lot more players than this. So that just goes to show that this game will never receive anything else. But Yeah, if you have any disagreements, just let me know.